Hi everyone, we are back with our June exam paper 1 2025, and we are now at question 5 where we need to consider the following graphs. Okay, so question 5 asks us to consider the following graphs: f of x equals x squared minus 9 and g of x equals negative 2x plus 6. F of x, of course, is a parabola. You should identify this as a parabola. It's a quadratic, x to the power of 2. So this has the form of a parabola or standard form. And then g of x is a straight line. Of course, it's a linear graph, x to the power of 1. So that can be identified as a linear graph, linear equation, a linear function, and this is a parabola. 5.1.1 asks us to calculate the x-intercepts of f, meaning the parabola. So we are going to calculate the x-intercepts of f, and we know, of course, that calculating the x-intercepts, we need to let y equal to 0. We are going to let f of x equal y. So in other words, I'm going to have y is equal to x squared minus 9, so that it just looks more, in terms of the notation, it is more familiar in terms of working out the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts by letting x equal to 0 and letting y equal to 0. So I'm going to say let y equal to 0, so I can work out my x-intercept. So that means I'm going to have x squared minus 9 equal to 0. And this is a quadratic equation. I've got x to the power of 2 here. So I'm going to factorize, and I'm going to have x factorized, or the first term factorized as x and x. And of course, we know this will be plus 3 and minus 3. So we know that x is going to be equal to negative 3, or x will be equal to positive 3. Now, you might ask, why can't I do this? I'll put here or. Some people would want to say x squared is equal to 9. So in other words, take the 9 over and then take the square root of 9. But then just remember, x is going to be equal to plus minus the square root of 9. So my answer is going to be plus minus 3. Okay, the problem I have with this route or approach or method is learners often forget that this needs to be plus minus, because you are so used to taking the square root and just considering the positive root in day-to-day calculations, if I can put it that way. And in this case, of course, we need both roots. We need the negative 3 and positive 3. And if you do it this way, you will not forget about, the other root, because this forces you to write down both. So yeah, but if you are comfortable with this, just remember that you need to include the plus and the minus, meaning x equals to 3 or x equals to negative 3. All right, 5.1.2 asks us to write down the y-intercept of g. So g meaning g of x. So the y, this is a straight line linear graph, a linear function. So the y-intercept of g of x is 6. Remember, y is equal to mx plus c. The c value is the y value of the y-intercept. So if you wrote down 6, you would be right. If you wrote down y is equal to 6, you would be right. If you wrote down 0 and 6, you would be right. Just note that because the question is asked in this way, you would not be penalized if you did not write it like this. The y-intercept means 6, right? So the y-intercept, and this would be the x-intercept. If it was asked of you to write down the coordinates of the y-intercept, then this would be your answer only. You would be forced to write this, and then these would not be correct. Okay, but in this case, you could write any one of those three. All right, question 5.1.3 asks us to sketch the graphs of f of x and g of x on the same set of axes. So I'm going to use one set of coordinate axes, and I'm going to sketch both of those graphs on the same set of axes. Now, to sketch our parabola, I'm going to need the turning point or the y-intercept, which I can read off here as negative 9. and I'm going to need my roots to see where it cuts the x-axis. And then of course for our straight line, we need 2 points. We'll need the x-intercept as well as the y-intercept. We already have the y-intercept, so for our straight line g of x, we are just quickly going to work out where does a straight line cut the x-axis. So for y equals negative 2x plus 6, so I'm writing the straight line in terms of y and x. I'm just putting aside the g of x for now, for convenience sake. So to work out the x-intercept, so let's just write x-intercept let y equal 0. So I've got negative 2x plus 6 equals 0, where the y used to be. I have the negative 2x equals to negative 6 and divide both sides by negative 2, and I have an answer of positive 3. So my x-intercept is at 3, my y-intercept is at 6. So for my f of x, for my parabola, I know I'm going to be turning at negative 9. It is a positive a value for this parabola. So I'm going to have my arms faced upwards. So the parabola will be faced upwards, or have, as they call, the smiley face. So you'll have a parabola that has that. And it will be a turning point of negative 9. So here we have the graph sketched out. I'm just going to talk through what's on the sketch here, or the diagram. So I obviously didn't make a recording where I'm actually sketching out the graph. I've done that beforehand, just to save a bit of time. And obviously I used some of the digital tools to make sure that my lines are straight, which is something I wouldn't obviously be able to do freehand. But obviously when you are writing or doing this in your exercise or test, exam, whatever, you would, of course, you wouldn't have a smooth curve like I have over here, but that doesn't matter as long as it's neat. You obviously use a ruler for the straight line, and that should do it. So nevertheless, I'm going to talk through what's been done on the sketch here. We have previously, just a moment ago, we've looked at working out the x-intercept for our straight line. We already know that our y-intercept is 6, and we simply need to take a ruler and mark off, first of all, mark off our x-intercept of 3, y-intercept of 6. Those are 2 points, which is all you need to draw a straight line. And then just take your ruler and then go ahead and do that. So that's pretty straightforward. For our parabola, like we said previously, we are going to, because we have f of x, just a side note, I assume, of course, not assume, but I expect that if you're watching this video, you know that the standard form for a parabola, at least at grade 10 level, looks like that. So we know that according to what we have here in terms of our f of x, our a value is positive 1, meaning, like I said previously, our arms will be faced upwards, or it will have the smiling form or smiley face. And we know, of course, that the q value is where the parabola turns on the y-axis, and that, of course, is indicated here at negative 9. So when you are sketching a parabola, you are going to need 3 points basically, just to make sure you are passing the parabola through the correct intercepts. So because it's a parabola, we've got, it's ax squared, ax to the power of 2, so you can have 2 x-intercepts. So not like with a straight line where there was only 1, you have 2. So when we worked out our roots previously, we had x equal to negative 3 and x equal to 3. So that means my parabola will pass through negative 3 and positive 3. So those points are indicated there. And of course, like we said, our q value is negative 9. So that is our y-intercept as well, and our turning point, negative 9. So once I've got those 3 points, I can then take my pencil and I can trace out the parabola. Notice, of course, that doing it freehand, you have a bit of a shaky business going on, but you know, you should be able to do it as smoothly as possible and at least get the shape correct. Okay, so it's an upward facing parabola, positive a value, going through -3, +3, and -9 on the y-axis for the parabola. For the straight line, once again, passing through 6 as your y-intercept and also through 3 as your x-intercept. So your parabola and a straight line share an intercept here at number 3, or at x equal to 3. One of the x-intercepts for the parabola, or roots of the parabola, is equal to the x-intercept of the straight line. And then there's another point over here which will come into play in a moment. At this point here, our parabola and our straight line intersect each other again. That point, of course, is some x value over here. Notice it's not -3, it is slightly to the left of -3, so it could be -4, -5 maybe. Note, of course, that this is not drawn to scale, so let's not try and measure with the eye, but we know that it's going to be a -4, -5, possibly even -6, but we'll find that out in a moment. And of course, it has a corresponding y value over here, which we also, of course, at this point we don't know what it is yet, but that is the point of intersection for the parabola and the straight line, in addition to x equal to 3 over here. So this coordinate over here, of course, would be 3 and 0, and here we need an x and a y coordinate as well.